Superhero cinema has become the dominant form of action blockbuster entertainment for at least 2 decades now. And a big reason for that is a willingness to treat the comic book source material with a straight face.
You know how much I sacrificed?
Taking superheroes seriously is a big reason why people became so invested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Here was the realm of movies treating not only a single superhero seriously, but the entire concept of a world of superheroes.
You didn't see that coming?
Unfortunately, I think that's led to a world where the only way we can have outright comedic interpretations of these characters is in the form of animation.
Getting ready to have sex.
Why?
Even the Deadpool films, for all their seeming anarchic tendencies,
Go get him, Tiger!
sway towards more grounded emotional characters and realistic visual design. And I think one superhero blockbuster can shoulder the blame for all this. A movie that I think deserves a lot less heat than it gets. So, I'm here to play Snow Miser and send you all to the cooler. I'm Drew Deitch for Giant Freakin' Robot, and I can't believe I'm putting this out into the world, but I'm here to defend Batman and Robin. I'm gonna have to work real hard to keep you watching this one.
Who is this nutball?
Batman and Robin represents a turning point in superhero cinema. Due to the response it received from both critics and audiences, superhero cinema shifted gears and began to take itself extremely seriously. A year after Batman and Robin underperformed, Blade would usher in the start of the superhero renaissance.
Freeze! Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?
After that would be X-Men and Spider-Man, and the rest is history. This video is sponsored by Incogni. The digital world gets more intrusive with every passing day, and your information is looking even more tantalizing to data brokers who want to make you more susceptible to annoying spam robocalls, unwanted texts, a flood of useless emails, and even the risk of full-on identity theft. Take control of your data with Incogni, an all-encompassing and automated service that gets your data back in your hands and protects it for the future. Get the family and friends plan and safeguard up to 4 other people on your account. Don't want your social security number, email address, or other identifying data floating out there in cyberspace? Incogni allows you to remove as much information linked to you as possible. Stop data brokers from learning your shopping habits, health information, political affiliation, and tons of other info you don't even realize is out there for the taking. Use our special GFR link and code in the video description to get 60% off your annual plan and become the master of your data universe with Incogni. So it feels like there's a slight moratorium on re-examining Batman and Robin. Its approach to superhero storytelling has become so out of fashion that it's practically ancient. While people certainly enjoy the fun and silly nature of quippy Marvel heroes,
It means get lost, Squidward.
we don't want our superheroes themselves to be jokes. And yet, almost 3 decades later, it's the jokey nature of Batman and Robin that actually makes it stand out from the crowd.
I'm feeling hot.
I find that unlikely.
And it's a big reason why it's time to argue for this widely derided cape and cowl comedy. Before we can even begin to talk about Batman and Robin, we have to understand some important history regarding Batman as a pop culture icon. The character has been a mainstay in pop culture throughout many forms of media, but the first time Batman became a worldwide sensation was in the 1960s when the television show Batman hit the airwaves. Adam West and Burt Ward would define an entire generation's outlook on Batman and Robin. But more importantly, this show would establish the idea that the villains were often the real stars you wanted to see.
Extraordinary.
Batman and Robin is clearly taking its inspiration directly from the television show Batman. Joel Schumacher had already injected some of that flamboyant energy into his previous entry, Batman Forever. But that film saved its campier qualities primarily for the villain performances and visual design. That ain't the case with Batman and Robin. The camp tone is far more prevalent and all-encompassing throughout. But the same can be said of Adam West's Batman universe.
So why don't you join the fun?
And I still love that show. Part of the reason Batman and Robin was rejected by audiences and fans is that they had seen a Batman on screen that took itself seriously with the Tim Burton features.
You killed my parents.
What?
Batman Forever was lighter by comparison to the Burton films, but it didn't come off as a gag at the expense of Batman as a concept. Batman and Robin does, and that irked most people, even though Batman as a character had proven popular by taking that same creative route with the Adam West version. Basically, it's okay for Batman to be used as a vehicle for ludicrous comedy.
Hey, freeze.
The heat is on.
Batman and Robin shouldn't be hated simply because it decided to be a comedy like the 60s television show, going so far that I'd call it an unabashed homage to the television show. If that's a wall you can't get past, that's on you and not the movie. Now, it is worth arguing if Batman and Robin is successful at being a comedy.
I hate when people talk during the movie.
If you ask most people to describe why Batman and Robin is bad, one of the things they'll point to is Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, Mr. Freeze, using puns in almost every line of dialogue.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
That kind of choice is almost deliberately grating in the same way dad jokes are.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
If that's too much for you to bear, that is understandable. I myself have come to love Arnold's dopey line deliveries.
That's my exit cue.
However, this choice shouldn't be disqualified simply for being a choice. Basically, arguing that it's stupid and silly doesn't inherently make it a bad thing. The same kind of relentless stupidity is pretty present in the Deadpool movies.
Hi.
This is a toughie.
But we are far more accepting of it as the norm because Deadpool is sold as a comedy. Batman and Robin doing the same thing with Batman and his universe makes a lot of folks put their guard up because a lot of folks really want Batman to be serious business.
Where are we?
Frankly, that mindset is boring and will lead to homogenous interpretations of the character. Batman should be allowed to be ridiculous at times. I mean, this is a property predicated on a man
Dressed up as a bat.
and Batman and Robin is arguably the most absurd live-action iteration of the character in existence, outside of some fan film you're telling me about in the comments. It's the effectiveness of this absurdity that we need to reevaluate, because Batman and Robin is a great example of being so knowingly off its rocker that it somehow completes the circle of silly, stupid, groan-inducing, unbelievable, and back to silly.
Help! I am Mother Nature.
This movie is more than aware of how nutty and parodic it's being, and it leans into that in wonderful fashion. The constant Mr. Freeze puns are the most forward-facing of these choices for most people, it seems.
Killed to perfection.
But they aren't outliers. The entire movie is poking fun at itself, with infamously foolish bits like the Bat credit card, or, my favorite, the delightful rubber lips gag.
Rubber lips are immune to your charms.
What?
These things have always been viewed as intrinsically bad in Batman and Robin because they are consciously dumb. But that awareness is vital to meeting the movie on its own terms. If the movie was being oblivious with its silliness and stupidity, then it would be worth criticizing as a comedic failure. But this flick is doing exactly what it wants, and more times than not, it's so farcical as to be nothing but laughable. And it's okay to laugh at a Batman movie, especially when it's encouraging you to do it.
Great stems, though.
Buds, too.
Speaking of Mr. Freeze, let's talk about the villains of Batman and Robin. As stated, the villains of the Batman universe have often taken precedent over the heroes. The establishment of having notable guest stars play the villains on the Batman television series ingrained a specific idea of what Batman villains were supposed to be in pop culture. Recognizable stars that are given an opportunity to cut loose with their most over-the-top acting choices. And for all the flack Batman and Robin gets for Arnie's pun-laden dialogue, his actual performance is rarely mentioned. Arnold thrives in movies where he's allowed to go big, and Mr. Freeze allows him the chance to go bigger than ever.
Winter has come at last.
You can practically see Arnie's teeth marks in the set as he goes for the gusto with every scene. It's an earnest commitment that deserves to be highlighted. If all you ever talk about or remember from Arnie in this movie are his puns, you need to watch him again. He is capital A acting in the best of ways. However, Batman and Robin's shining performance comes from Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy.
I'm poison.
Only 3 years after she became a hit star with Pulp Fiction, Thurman was cast as the sultry, empowered, plant-themed foe, and the entirety of her work in the film is, let me hear it, Fassie,
Perfection.
Thurman gets the tone and delivery exactly right, having more fun than anyone else in the cast. Her few scenes playing off character actor John Glover are a hoot, and the movie sings every moment Thurman is on screen. Even most people who dismiss or outright hate this film admit that Thurman is the best thing about it. And yeah, Bane is in this as a lunk-headed muscle goon. I love Batman and have read tons of Batman comics over the course of my life. I don't care about fealty to the comics as long as the iteration is entertaining on its own merits. And Bane is a dopey henchman in a very classic 60s Batman fashion. If y'all love Bane so much, you got a whole movie now where he has a different funny voice. But I'm here for Chauffeur Bane. One of the things that bums me out about the superhero renaissance is how much realism became a requirement for the subgenre. As we began to take superheroes more seriously in our mainstream cinema, we expected that the filmmaking and style choices would reflect that seriousness. This has led to a movement in superhero movies that prioritizes believability over pure fantasy. And Batman and Robin is one of the least believable superhero movies you could ever see.
This is a one-woman show.
But that's part of what makes it a joy to watch. Before the Nolan films, the Batman features were drenched in extreme and often totally fantastical design choices. With Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever, those choices lean towards more purposefully garish and colorful displays. Empowered by the huge success of Batman Forever, Batman and Robin doubles down on these choices, and it turns the whole of Gotham City into a candy-coated wonderland. Schumacher often used the term toyetic to describe Batman and Robin, a term said to him by executives, and he viewed that as a negative. It was a demand from the studio that he felt hindered his artistic desires. Years later, I feel that decision actually energized Schumacher to take the silliness of the movie to its extremes in really satisfying ways. Now that the majority of what we see in effects blockbusters is completely digital, this is a movie that is overflowing with gorgeously crafted sets, costumes, vehicles, and miniatures. Texturally, this movie deserves reappraisal for being one of the last practically made formalist world endeavors that went for the broadest audience possible. This is all made much clearer thanks to the 4K remaster of Batman and Robin. The colors and camera choices are all utilized to maximum effect, so that the entire film has the vibrancy one would associate with the most colorful of comic books. Remember those? The things these movies all come from? They were really, really colorful. As a purely visual treat, this movie needs to be on your radar. If you are like me and the bland color palettes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe have got you down, go back and appreciate just how bold this movie goes with color. I mean, look at this gorgeosity! Now, if you've actually gotten this far, I thank you for being open enough to consider my thoughts on Batman and Robin.
Thanks to you, son. Thanks to you all.
But let me clarify something. I am not trying to say that Batman and Robin is flawless. Far from it, as we'll get into. What I am saying is that the big issues that have become synonymous with this film aren't the real issues. The comedy and cartoon tone and look are what the movie is going for. Those are goals it's setting, and I feel it achieves them.
Watch and learn, little boy.
However, Batman and Robin does have a problem, but it's one I don't see brought up as strongly or as often when this movie gets criticized. The film's biggest problem is when it drops all the comedy and goofball visuals and tries to be achingly sincere. A big plot line in the film centers around loyal butler Alfred becoming sick with a fatal disease. While it's great to see series stalwart Michael Gough get some spotlight, this storyline never hits the way it wants to for a few reasons. The first is that it's hard to feel any genuine emotional weight in a movie where a guy is trying to turn all of Gotham City into ice and making puns along the way.
A laundry service that delivers. Wow!
That element on its own is actually fun, but there is a tonal dissonance that happens when the movie wants to make any attempt at being somber or reflective. This was handled much better in Batman Forever because its wackiness wasn't so self-parodic.
Really?
It was still kooky, but it was earnestly kooky as opposed to Batman and Robin's camp kookiness.
That's why every Poison Ivy action figure comes complete with him.
The other problem with Batman and Robin's attempts at sincerity is that the movie is overloaded with plot lines. On top of the Alfred storyline vying for emotional resonance, we also have more strife between Bruce and Dick, a newcomer to the team in Barbara who pretty much gets a rehash of Robin's plot from Batman Forever, the desire to make Mr. Freeze sympathetic with a plot involving his cryogenically frozen wife, and even a steady girlfriend / potential fiance for Bruce who is barely even in the movie. Batman and Robin doubled down on the preposterous fun that Batman Forever had, but it also doubled down on attempts at legitimate drama. This stuffs the movie to its gills and makes the warring tonal attempts clash against each other. Thankfully, the movie is often more ridiculous than it is sincere.
Tonight's forecast. A freeze is coming.
But this is the real problem that keeps the movie from working more than it does. I'm sure there are criticisms you have that I haven't addressed. George Clooney's acting is one that comes up often, and he's doing a fine enough riff on Adam West's square-jawed, self-aware take. But you've heard all those criticisms a dozen times with Batman and Robin. It's gotten to a point where trying to highlight anything from this movie is seen as being completely insane. This is a movie that is often called one of the worst movies of all time. I got news for you. If you actually think Batman and Robin is one of the worst movies of all time, you need to be subjected to way more movies. It's more apt to call Batman and Robin a movie most people didn't want at the time. With lots of time behind it, and plenty of serious business Batman movies to fill that quota for those fans, Batman and Robin is childishly charming and honestly lighthearted. We are all looking for any escape we can get in our media, and a lot of that is lighthearted fare. Batman and Robin is a flick that feels perfect for young kids who want to get into Batman. It's colorful, funny, and a valid interpretation of the character and his world. It's not the worst Batman movie. I did a video on that. It's not even one of the worst superhero movies. We deserve to give this flick a second chance because after its failure, we're probably never going to get another like it ever again. I am sure this video will go over pretty poorly, but if you did watch all the way to the end, you've heard my thoughts, so it's more than fair that I hear yours in the comments. Want to hear more of my Batman movie opinions? You've got to like the video and subscribe to the channel so we know that's what you're looking for. If you think me liking Batman and Robin is whacked, wait until I argue that some cartoon movies are better than all the Nolan films. Hope I'll get to introduce that anarchy in the future here on Giant Freakin' Robot.